I'm wider now. Wait. Alrighty then. Welcome to my video about Jeffrey Dahmer and about his story and what happened back in the 70s up until the 90s. Now, that dude was gay. Okay, but no judgment here. Man was getting it, you know. He murdered 17 young men. Young, very young. In brutal ways. That included necrophilia, cannibalism, and bizarre experiments on his victims. His actions shocked the world, and the details of his life, crimes, and eventual capture revealed disturbing insights into not only Dahmer's mind, but also the systemic failures that allowed him to go undetected for so long. During his early life and the troubling signs of how he got to where he is, Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21st, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. He was the first child of a young couple whose relationship was turbulent and often plagued by Joyce's mental health struggles and Lionel's absence due to his work as a chemist. Jeffrey's early years were marked by feelings of isolation and emotional neglect, which would shape the darker parts of his personality. From an early age, Dahmer displayed a fascination with dead animals, an interest his father initially encouraged, but believing it to be a healthy curiosity about biology. But Jeffrey's interest went beyond typical childhood curiosity. He was particularly drawn to the insides of animals, dissecting roadkill and preserving bones. In school, during one of their biology classes, after class, when they were taking, or before the end of class, they were taking apart essentially you would ask to take home the dissected pigs because he would want to, I don't know, do whatever weird stuff he was wanting to do with them, such as, you know, dissecting them more. And the teachers and students got quite weirded out by that. And that just made him look like more of a weirdo. So, as a teenager, Dahmer struggled with his identity, becoming increasingly withdrawn, isolated, and reliant on alcohol. His classmates saw him as an oddball, and while he did occasionally pull outrageous pranks to gain attention, like doing a Dahmer was some of the nicknames that they gave his pranks, he was mostly a loner. He drank excessively, even sneaking alcohol into school, which he claimed helped him cope with the thoughts and feelings he just couldn't control. His first murder in 1978, shortly after graduating from high school, Dahmer committed his first murder. His parents' separation had left him alone in the family home in Bath Township, Ohio. On June 18th, he picked up an 18-year-old hitchhiker, Stephen Hicks, offering him a ride, alcohol, and company. When Hicks eventually wanted to leave, Dahmer, desperate to prevent him from going, bludgeoned him with a dumbbell and strangled him. This act of violence awakened something within Dahmer, a powerful, dark urge that would drive him for years to come. After the murder, Dahmer dismembered Hicks' body, crushing the bones, and scattered them in the backyard. He dissolved other parts in acid and disposed of what remained. Despite his fear of being caught, Dahmer later admitted that the feeling of power he experienced during and after the murder was intoxicating for him. The years of dormancy and descent. For nearly a decade, Dahmer's murderous urges lay dormant. Although he continued to struggle with his desire for control and intimacy, he attempted college but dropped out after one semester due to his heavy drinking. In 1979, he joined the U.S. Army, initially finding some success in the structured environment, but he was discharged due to alcohol issues. He then returned home, but his life continued on a downward spiral. In 1982, Dahmer moved in with his grandmother in Milwaukee, a well-meaning attempt by his family to give him stability. Although he didn't kill again immediately, he was still haunted by dark urges, which he tried to manage through alcohol and by frequenting gay bars and bathhouses. However, he was banned from several establishments for drugging other patrons. The resurgence of violence and the Milwaukee murders. In 1987, Dahmer's murderous instincts resurfaced with a vengeance. He met Stephen Tuomi in a bar, took him to a hotel, and claimed to have blacked out when he awoke. Tuomi was dead. This murder seemed to reignite his urges, and from that point on, he killed frequently, often targeting young men he met in bars, bathhouses, or at bus stops. Dahmer developed a ritualistic pattern, luring his victims back to his grandmother's, or later his own apartment, where he would drug, strangle, and dismember them. He often photographed the dismemberment process, and as his compulsion escalated, he began preserving body parts, including skulls, organs, and even entire skeletons. Cannibalism also became part of his routine, as he believed consuming parts of his victims would allow them to stay with him forever. The Oxford Apartments and Glenda, Cleveland's warnings. In 1990, Dahmer moved into apartment 213 of the Oxford Apartments in Milwaukee. This new home provided him with the isolation he desired to carry out his horrific acts undetected. However, it didn't take long for his neighbors to notice something was off. Foul odors emanated from Dahmer's unit, along with strange sounds of machinery late at night. The stench of decomposing flesh, chemicals, and bleach seeped into the hallways, causing alarm among all the residents. Glenda Cleveland, who lived in the adjacent building, grew suspicious. She frequently smelled the overpowering odor and heard the hum of a power saw, which Dahmer used to dismember his victims. Cleveland and other residents complained to building management, but Dahmer brushed off their concerns, claiming that his freezer had broken, causing food to spoil, or that he was working on DIY projects. Despite all of his excuses, Cleveland still remained vigilant. In May 1991, she witnessed something alarming. The young boy, later identified as 14-year-old Konorak Simthasomphone, had escaped Dahmer's apartment. That's a stupid-ass name. Simthasomphone. I got it right. And was found disoriented and bleeding in the street. Cleveland, disturbed by his appearance, called the police, hoping they would intervene. When officers arrived, Dahmer appeared calm and reassured them that Simthasomphone was his 19-year-old boyfriend who had simply had too much to drink. The police believed Dahmer's story, ignoring Cleveland's protests, and escorted the boy back into Dahmer's custody, where he was eventually murdered. Cleveland was devastated, as her instincts had been right, but her voice had been ignored. This tragic failure by law enforcement allowed Dahmer to continue his spree, and Konorak's death became one of the most haunting aspects of the case. The incident exposed systemic issues within law enforcement and sparked a national outcry. His final capture, and all their horrific discoveries. On July 22nd, 1991, Dahmer's reign of terror ended when 32-year-old Tracy Edwards managed to escape from his apartment. Edwards then flagged down police and led them back to Dahmer's residence. And what they found was beyond their darkest imaginings. Severed heads in the refrigerator, barrels of acid containing human remains, preserved skulls, and graphic photographs of dismembered bodies. Upon his arrest, Dahmer confessed to the murders, describing in chilling detail his desires and actions. His calm demeanor during the confession baffled investigators, who struggled to understand how he could recount his crimes with such detachment. Dahmer's trial raised questions about the role of mental illness in his crimes. He was diagnosed with multiple disorders, including borderline personality disorder and psychotic disorder. Despite these diagnoses, the court ruled him legally sane, and he was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms. Dahmer's trial was an immediate sensation, and his calmness in court left a lasting impression. While he expressed remorse, many questioned the sincerity of his apologies, and his statements left families of the victims struggling to find peace. In his prison time, on November 28th, 1994, Dahmer's life ended when a fellow inmate, Christopher Scarver, attacked him at the Columbia Correctional Institute in Portage, Wisconsin. Dahmer's death closed a chapter in one of the darkest stories in American history, but his impact endures. For Glenda Cleveland, Dahmer's neighbor, the end of his life offered little comfort. She had tried to warn authorities, and her persistence highlighted the racial and socioeconomic biases that allowed Dahmer's spree to continue. Cleveland was later recognized by the city for her courage, but she remained haunted by the knowledge that her warnings went unheeded. Now, the broader impact that this Jeffrey Dahmer case had become a cultural touchstone, sparking discussions about police accountability, mental health, and the biases within the criminal justice system. The failures that allowed Dahmer's crime to continue serve as a grim reminder of what can happen when red flags are ignored and voices go unheard. Anyways, Jeffrey Dahmer's gay, killed 17 men, and not a single woman at least. I'll take that. He killed 17, hear me out, 17 gay men. Not cool, man. That sounds kind of homophobic to me. You know, even though he's gay, he's killing all these gay people. Like, what? A lot of people think it's a hate crime, or he's just really gay and likes to be really weird sexually with these gay guys. Okay. So if I was gay, watch out, because Jeffrey Dahmer's coming for you. But only for gay and a man. Go. Anyways, that's all I got for y'all today. Good night, and let me play the same outro. Bye-bye.